The angiosperms, or flowering plants as they are more commonly known, are the dominant life form in every ecosystem around the globe, except the boreal forest. And what defines this massive group of plants? The flower, of course. In order for angiosperms to undergo fertilization, they need to become pollinated. This drive for the dispersal of pollen, or the plant's male sperm cells, to find the female egg in the flower of the plant has led to a vast variety of plant pollination strategies. This includes pollination by wind and by water, but perhaps most impressive of all is the distribution of pollen through other organisms. This method has provided such an adaptive advantage to flowering plants that it allowed them to explode into the most dominant life form on the landscape. Coevolution is an interesting phenomenon that involves two species evolving traits together that increases their interdependency on one another. An example of coevolution where the plant and pollinator rely on each other to survive is the fig wasp and the fig plant.
The fig wasp female scrapes out pollen and carefully packs it in special pockets on her breast. It is extraordinary behavior, which has evolved out of millions of years of mutual dependence between wasp and tree.
Without the fig, the wasps wouldn't have a place to reproduce, and without the wasps, the fig wouldn't get pollinated. However, these delicate interactions can be interrupted by even slight deviations from the ideal conditions. A once hotly debated idea is now widely accepted as scientific fact. That is, humanity's impact on the Earth's climate as a system, resulting in climate change. It should come as no surprise that carbon dioxide level in our global atmosphere has been increasing since the Industrial Revolution due to the burning of fossil fuels for energy. But just how much of an increase are we talking about, and is it really having an effect on our planet? The answer to the former has been determined through ice core data. Over the last 800,000 years in Earth's history, prior to the Industrial Revolution, the carbon dioxide level of the Earth's atmosphere has never risen above 280 parts per million. However, today our carbon dioxide level is around 400 parts per million, which is well beyond the natural variability of what the Earth has recently experienced. Because carbon dioxide is the primary greenhouse gas in our atmosphere caused by human activity, and it has a direct effect on global temperature, scientists have determined that due to the increase of anthropogenic carbon emissions, our average global temperature has increased by 0.85 degrees Celsius since 1880. That may not seem that high, but it has a profound effect on the Earth and its inhabitants. This warming is also more concentrated at the poles. In Canada, the average temperature has warmed by 1.6 degrees Celsius since 1948, which is driving ice loss in the Arctic and therefore a rise in global sea level. This warming of the Earth's northern climate is also having an effect on species that live there, and importantly, the plant-pollinator interactions.
But I'm interested in interactions from both the animal perspective and from the plant perspective. And it's unavoidable to think about those interactions without thinking about the context of environmental change, and in particular climate change, especially in the north and as you move up in elevation.
These modifications to plant-pollinator interactions on a global scale due to climate change are having impacts on ecosystem services. Ecosystems provide us goods, such as the majority of the foods we eat, including the bread products, fruits and vegetables, chocolate, and coffee, along with a vast number of other services which include water purification, paper and wood products, drugs, and shelter for both humans and animals. Another important ecosystem good that we take for granted is cotton for our clothes. Nearly 7 million metric tons of cotton were produced in China alone in the 2013-2014 production year. Without the interaction of the cotton plant and its pollinator, the honeybee, we wouldn't have the vast amount of cotton products we use today. Plants not only provide humans with direct ecosystem services, but also give us food for our livestock and provide pollinators with nectar for the production of honey. However, climate change is occurring more rapidly than what some species can adapt to, and this can lead to the reduction in the number and abundance of species providing ecosystem services.
So plants and animals, organisms have adapted to the current conditions, right? And sort of, it's not a specific set, but they kind of have an optimal, within the distribution of things that they can tolerate, there's sort of an optimal set of conditions. And the challenge they have right now is that climate change in particular has been very rapid in an evolutionary time scale. And so for some species that have very broad tolerances, they've just sort of shifted around. But for other species that have more narrow tolerances, whether it's in terms of temperature or rainfall, precipitation, or they're in bigger trouble.
Climate change is also causing a mismatch of when plants emerge on the landscape and when pollinators appear to pollinate them, which creates the potential for plants to go unpollinated during the reproductive stage in their life cycle. The timing of these events is called phenology. This mismatch of events can be detrimental to plants and their pollinators.
There is data to suggest in the high alpine, which is sort of a microcosmic view of climate change, right? Because climate change effects are enhanced in high alpine areas, that there's a shift in the phenology of many of the flowering plants that is mismatched with the arrival of migrating hummingbirds. So they're finding plants like bluebells, for example, up in the high alpine are emerging up to 3 weeks earlier than they used to, but the migrating hummingbirds who are arriving from Mexico and southern United States have not yet made it to the mountains at that point. So there is a disconnect there, and that is specifically due to changes in temperature associated with climate change. Yeah.
A mismatch in the phenology of plants and their pollinators can lead to a loss of species and biodiversity, which refers to the variety of different species in an ecosystem. A high level of biodiversity is a key to a productive ecosystem, and one of the best measures scientists use as an indicator of ecosystem health. Therefore, climate change may be having a negative effect on ecosystems through a loss in biodiversity.
I think one of the things that we're going to see is a real decrease in diversity. So I think we're still going to see some abundance of pollinators, but we're going to see reduction in the number of species. We're going to see a move towards more generalized pollinators, pollinators that are able to forage on a lot of different things and are a little bit more flexible. That's going to be really problematic for plant diversity, because then if we get rid of specialist pollinators, we get rid of specialist plants. So we're going to see sort of a homogenization, I think, of a lot of these plant-pollinator interactions.
Despite ample research and a general consensus throughout the scientific community, the greatest hindrance of positive change toward our impact on the climate is the strength of climate change denial remaining in the general population. Due to the vast amount of denial and lack of motivation to change, over the coming years we will most likely see a greater gap in the delicate plant-pollinator life cycles and increased losses of biodiversity globally. This is all thanks to an organized and well-funded denial machine consisting of fossil fuel corporations, amateur climate bloggers, conservative politicians, and others who either have something to gain by denying anthropogenic climate change, or who are simply unmoved by the vast majority of scientific evidence, as John Oliver demonstrates.
Naturally, Bill Nye Science Guy.
Bill? John?
Yep.
Humans are causing climate change? No question.
Wait. Before we begin, in the interest of mathematical balance, I'm going to bring out 2 people who agree with you, climate skeptic, and Bill Nye, I'm also going to bring out 96 other scientists. It's a little unwieldy, but this is the only way you can actually have a representative discussion. So, yeah, please file in. Again, this is going to make the debate difficult. We shouldn't really be having it in the first place. But, so, representationally, climate skeptic, please make a case against climate change.
Well, I just don't think all the science is in yet. It's settled.
OK, and what is the overwhelming view of the entire scientific community?
Well,